Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we got to talk about the caravan of illegal migrants that are currently making their way to the United States of America in anticipation of Kamala Harris losing the election, because they are under the belief that if they just get in under Biden, under Kamala, they will be allowed to sneak in and blend in with the interior of the country, and thus they won't get deported if the evil orange man gets elected. Now, we're going to talk about this. We're going to break this down. We're going to highlight the fact that this is all on video. They're making their intentions very clear, and yet there will be no consequences for it. But before we do that, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
These along the southern border are bracing for a massive migrant caravan making its way through Mexico. 2,000 migrants who crossed into southern Mexico on Sunday say time is of the essence, saying they're afraid of asylum changes under a new president come January, worried that this is their last chance to get into the country.
So a couple of things need to be made 100% clear for those of you out there in the audience, and that is there is a reason why most people who are intelligent on the right, even before the change of course from the Biden administration in terms of executive actions, knew for a fact that illegal migration was going to slow in the lead up to the election, and this is of course to obfuscate from the problem, to distract from it. And part of the reason that this was going to happen no matter what is because the cartels are not stupid. They know if you get stricter immigration enforcement, if you get people being turned away at the border, then the people who are paying them large sums of money in order to be smuggled to the border are not going to do so anymore, and that's going to cost them millions, if not billions of dollars. So even before the executive actions of the Biden administration, we knew that migration was going to slow down in the lead up to the election. And of course, a bunch of lefties will say, well, yesterday, there were less encounters at the border than in 2019 or this arbitrary point in time during the Trump administration, as if we don't know about the millions, the record-breaking amounts of people who surged to the border, just as Joe Biden called for.
I would in fact make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression.
And who have been defrauding the asylum system this whole time. The Democrats truly believe that they can go 3.5 years, ignore this issue, pretend that it's not an issue, attack you for even suggesting it's an issue, then pretend that everything is solved just in the lead up to the election and install Kamala Harris as the president, much in the same way that they installed her as the Democratic nominee. Now, of course, that's not the case. Possibly, we have an election coming up. You guys will ultimately decide whether or not that is going to be allowed to pass, but make no mistake about it, these people are surging in anticipation of Trump winning because they know if the evil orange man ends up taking office, there is at least a chance that this flow of illegal people defrauding our asylum system will be cut significantly.
News Nation's Jorge Ventura has the latest from San Antonio this morning. Jorge, I'm curious how these cities are now preparing for another new migrant surge.
Good morning, Mark. Yeah, so this caravan is around 2,000 migrants. It's on its way north right now to the U.S.-Mexico border. And officials across Texas say they are in active alert, including officials in El Paso.
Again, I will point out a couple of things. First and foremost, they're describing this as a caravan. If you'll remember, these kinds of groups of migrants had always been traditionally described as caravans by the news media. But during the Trump administration, this was considered evil white racism. But secondly, in addition to that, when you talk to these migrants, they quite literally say they're worried that Trump is going to change the asylum system back, and they want to get in, defraud the system before those rules change. Now, there's also a bit of a communication glitch going on right here. For some reason, these people are under the belief that post-election day, the president immediately takes office, doesn't become president-elect. So obviously, they're actually hurting their own cause, because if you shine the light on this, if you give this attention, it makes it less likely that Kamala is going to win. But make no mistake about it, these people know which party is going to allow them to defraud our system and know which party is more likely to give them amnesty.
Now, officials in El Paso are adding that they are tracking that caravan's movement and are in active conversation with Mexican authorities. Many migrants are now viewing this as kind of their last chance to make it into the United States and seek asylum with that upcoming election.
So I just want to point out a couple of things. First and foremost, you have the Texas police coordinating with the nation of Mexico, tracking these migrants as they make their way to the border. But make no mistake about it, Mexico accepts asylees. They can claim asylum there. And in addition to that, they also have strict immigration laws that they enforce against people trying to invade their country. But for whatever reason, the best we can get under the Harris-Biden administration is we can look at these people, we can observe them on their path to break the law in the United States of America, where they will ultimately end up claiming asylum. And by the way, there's footage from the Telegraph on this where you can track these people, you could see them walking. I understand that this is a treacherous journey, but make no mistake about it, these people are economic migrants. They're not fleeing persecution. They're going to claim asylum when, again, they're also simultaneously telling you that they're afraid that the evil orange man will change asylum laws. Remember, asylum is if you're desperate. If you need a way out of your place, you will get sanctuary from another place. But in this particular instance, they're saying quite literally it is based on the potential policies that they see going into effect after Election Day, even though we know in the United States of America that the president-elect is only sworn in January of the next year. So these people are surging to the border. They're breaking our law right now. It's on video. The government is tracking them along with the Mexican government, but nothing is being done.
Migrants are expected that with a Trump administration, with that possibility of winning in November, that the Trump administration could introduce more of those hardline immigration policies and cracking down on asylum, but also ending that CBP-1 Act, which Mexican officials say now migrants are growing very impatient with, and say that we could possibly see even more of these smaller groups come here to the U.S. Now, right now, Marky, it's unclear if that migrant group would head to El Paso or another entry point here in Texas, like McAllen.
So there also seem to be concern related to the app. Of course, this is the app that Kamala Harris's administration opened up for individuals to apply for immigration status or asylum through, and it used to be for packages. So they're becoming impatient. They're worried that the evil orange man is going to change that. And again, none of these have to do with persecution in your home country, religious, political, or whatever, which are the reasons that you're supposed to flee for asylum. Again, if you're an economic migrant, you're supposed to go through the economic immigration process.
But officials say they are expecting that group to start making that way closer once they kind of reach Mexico City. We'll kind of see what direction they head to. But El Paso saying they are in active communication with Mexican officials at the moment, tracking that group headed to the U.S.-Mexico border.
I mean, again, this is just absurd in every possible way. These people are expected to be here Wednesday. This report's a little bit old, so they may have already arrived at the El Paso border. We know this. We understand this. We have reports of them making this journey. The Mexican government knows this, that they understand this, and yet we're not seeing any movement in stopping these people. Why not get them to be turned away in Mexico? Why not get them to be turned away in Central America? Why do we have to let these people flood to our border, invade our nation, violate our asylum laws, just because Kamala Harris and Biden want potentially more people in a group that they can give amnesty to in the future in order to secure Democratic majorities again in the future?
Yeah, and this group calling themselves God Guides Us. Yeah, we'll be interested to see, what they look like, where all they're coming from.
Now, right here, the News Nation reporter asks where these people are coming from, and I want to cut to some of the audio from the Telegraph piece, because you actually have one of the people that's leading this caravan of individuals to our border ask them for like a show of hands of all the different nations that they come from. And I'll play that for you so you can see it's from many different parts of Central America, from Latin America. And if this is the case, if they're coming from all these different various parts, they should be stopping and applying for asylum in each destination along their way, which of course is what Remain in Mexico is all about.
So News Nation's border team, we did obtain an exclusive statement from GOP Homeland Security Committee on this caravan saying, quote, this is from Chairman Mark Green saying, quote, it's quite simple, would-be border crossers know that their best chance to be released into American communities is under the open border policies of President Biden and his border czar Vice President Kamala Harris. He added that in his view, the crisis won't end until there's a change in policy and immigration laws are fully enforced.
So look, obviously the Republican chair in terms of immigration is going to say that it's Biden and Harris's fault, but let's be clear about this. This is absolutely 100% true. Their policy has been, for the most part, to parole these people into the country. They got rid of Remain in Mexico. They said it was evil, white, and racist, even though, again, separating yourself ourselves from all partisanship, the idea as a way to deter asylum fraud, that you have to claim asylum in each of your options on the way to the United States of America, is so smart, so intelligent, that if any person would have come up with it, I would be behind it. But of course, since the evil Orange Man's administration came up with it, it must be the most racist thing you could possibly imagine.
President Biden and Vice President Harris continue to defend the record on border security. President Trump saying if he wins, he'll carry out the largest deportation operation in American history.
Now, this is where the News Nation segment ends up getting into the election stuff. And honestly, if you don't understand where the evil Orange Man stands versus where Kamala Harris stands, then what are you even doing? Obviously, if you want to go in the direction of Trump, you have an opportunity for that. You have election day. If you're in the swing states, you can vote on Tuesday, November, whenever it is. I don't know exactly. I forgot at this moment in time. It's the first Tuesday of November. I think it's November 5th. And you can make your voice heard at the ballot box. You can also check your early voting times and all of that if you're in states that allow early voting. But again, it should be obvious to everybody what is going on right here. The betting odds, the polls, and all of that seem to be tilting in favor of Donald Trump. People in Latin America are seeing that. They have a misunderstanding of when Trump would take office, so they're flooding to the border regardless of the executive actions that the Biden administration put in, because again, this was a strategic suppression of people flooding to the border in the hopes that Kamala Harris, the border czar, would get reelected and keep the same policies going. And by the way, this is a very intelligent bet. If Kamala Harris wins, when not only was she in the Biden administration, but put in charge of the border specifically, after 3.5 years of denying this is a problem, then everybody in the Democratic Party is going to know that this is not an issue that's going to break them electorally, that they can deny this, they can ignore this, they can let people flood into the country, establish lives in this nation, and they'll get away with it at the ballot box. So again, the decision obviously on you, but I want to know what you guys think about everything that I brought up in this particular story, my little bit of tinfoil hat wearing that these people and the cartels decided not to show up en masse during the last 6 months before the election strategically, and all of that. As per usual, if you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the craziness and a new caravan at the border. Till next time.